No matter if points are gained or points are lost, there will be much to discuss. For analysis regarding tonight's Winnipeg Jets game, here are Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg, and your host, Drew Mandel. The Illegal Curve post-game show starts now.
Good evening, Winnipeg. Good evening, Manitoba. And for all of those joining us live, wherever you're joining us live on the interweb, good evening and welcome to the Illegal Curve post-game show. I am your host, Dave Manouk. He's my main man and number one analyst here on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show and the Illegal Curve post-game show, and sometimes the special edition show, Ezra Ginsburg.
It's the No Mandel show. That's what it is tonight, Dave.
That's right. There's lots of mic time. We will not have to worry. We will not have to throw elbows for mic time because
there's no coincidence that the Jets won and Mandel's taking the night off. I don't think that should be lost on anyone.
I didn't want to say anything. My dad already sent me I told you so text, Ezzy. You weren't there in the last post-game show. My dad predicted the Jets would lose 5 in a row before defeating the Pittsburgh Penguins. So Gary with the prognostication. So he gets his kudos, and the Jets pick up an important 2-1 victory over the Pittsburgh Penguins, and couldn't have come at a better time. Had a first period to remember, a first period that was probably a little defensively loose, probably a little more than Rick Bowness would have liked to have seen, but both teams had lots of chances. It was a fun atmosphere. I don't know if there's that many Jansen Harkins fans in Winnipeg, but there were a lot of Penguins jerseys. And, obviously Sidney Crosby being the best hockey player on the planet for the majority of his career, created a lot of fans, but it's surprising, actually, I would have to say, to see that many Pittsburgh jerseys in the crowd. Another sold out, second straight sellout for the Jets. I think the 4th of the year, they were saying up in the press box. So the joy is back in Joyland, Ezzy, and the Jets picked themselves up a big, important 2 points and a 2-1 win.
Yeah, and we've got the comment up there from Stacy. Stacy, of course, I'm not sure if she's in Erie or near Erie, but I believe Stacy's in Erie, so she would know about how Pens fans travel. I'm not sure, Dave, would we say that there's more Pens fans at a Jets game versus obviously when the team is playing the Pens versus when the Jets are playing the Flyers? I think it might be pretty equal. I think we've gone, back and forth over the years, who has more who has more fans in the city, Leafs fans or Habs fans. I would actually, put the Bruins pretty close up there with Leafs fans and Habs fans, but there's no doubt when you're talking about the post-expansion era, right? 1967, I believe that's when the Pens and the Flyers came in, or at the very least, that's when the Flyers came in, right? So, yeah, I mean, look, it's always good when there's a sellout. I mean, it was not fun early in the season when we were talking about those crowds of 11,000 and 12,000, but you're absolutely right, Dave. We're going to break down the goals in the Betway game recap, but the Jets got the start that they wanted, right? And they followed that up with another goal, and they had the 2-goal lead after one. And certainly I thought they were going to build on that, and they did get chances. I mean, late in the third period there, Alex Iafallo, I mean, for a guy that hasn't scored in a long time, I mean, obviously you were hoping that he was going to bury that, but luckily Nino Niederreiter, he got the proverbial monkey off his back, right? Yeah, and scored the goal in the first period. So at the end of the day, I think would you have liked to have a little bit more of a cushion? Sure, you would have liked to have 3 or 4 goals, but at the end of the day, you stopped the bleeding. Unfortunately, you only got the 1 power play and you didn't score a goal, but I mean, who cares at this point? The Jets get the win. We talked about it on this morning show. They've got 3 days between the next game, Wednesday on Valentine's against San Jose. So, I mean, you're feeling good now. That's what we wanted. We wanted the joy back in Joyland, and that's what we got here. So I think even though this wasn't the prettiest win, and I think you left some, grade A scoring chances on the table that you'd like to bury in the back of the net. Again, you got the W, and you gained some points on the Colorado Avalanche.
Well, according to Underage Fool, undefeated when I attend my portion of season tickets. So Underage Fool, you need to start seeing more games apparently, because it's your good fortune that helped the Jets in that situation. And look, it was a fun atmosphere. And whenever you get a number of fans, and Sidney Crosby in the building always makes things more enjoyable, right, Ezzy? You always like to see 87. He's a special player. And so whenever we get those opportunities, Evgeny Malkin, not so much. He wasn't quite noticeable for the same reasons as number 87 was, but you just can't you can't minimize what Sidney Crosby has meant to this game. And I don't want Spency to accuse me of calling this Penguins lunch or Penguins, I guess, dinner at this point but Sidney Crosby is a special player. So to see him anytime you get a chance to see him live and in person, it's a special event.
A few years ago, I said by the time his career was over, Sidney Crosby will go down as the second best forward of all time, because I think we both agree, Dave, Wayne Gretzky's untouchable. He's the best. He's the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
And I took some flack for that. People said, what are you talking about? I mean, some people even said, no, Connor McDavid's going to be the second of all time. You look at the NHL all-time points leaders.
Yeah.
I think Sidney Crosby is going to come very close. By the time his career is over, he's going to come very close to Jaromir Jagr, who of course is second to Gretzky, right?
Right.
And then you've got Mess, who's third, right? I mean, let's just look at, he's over a point a game this season. He's 36 years old. You look at Alex Ovechkin and how he's fallen off at 38 years old, right?
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I think by the time his career is over, I think at the very least, Dave, he's going to be top 5 all time in points.
Yeah.
But I think he's going to challenge Gretzky. Pardon me, not Gretzky. He's going to challenge Jagr and Messier for second and third overall. That's all I'm saying. I mean, that's Crosby. He's in that conversation with the greatest of all time. So Gretzky, Jagr, Messier, Yzerman, Sakic. I mean, he's absolutely up there, and you're absolutely right. I mean, there were hundreds, if not thousands, of Pens fans. You would know more than I would, Dave. I think it was more so thousands of Penguins fans in attendance tonight.
Yeah.
And I mean, we were talking about it watching the game here in the third period. If you take Crosby and Erik Karlsson off this team, they're nowhere near a playoff spot. I mean, it's those two players specifically. I mean, yes, Jake Gensel's having a good year. Brian Rust is having a good year, but I mean, it's really, Crosby and Karlsson that are leading this team, Malkin to a lesser degree. And for the most part, they kept those guys off the scoreboard, right? Like Russ scored the goal on the deflection from the Karlsson shot. But for the most part, I mean, the Jets, I thought, did a pretty good job. I think the shots are a little bit misleading in this game, Dave. I think the Pens ended up with 36 or 37 shots. But on their 3 power play opportunities, I mean, they didn't do much. So the Jets penalty kill came through big tonight. And, at the end of the day, it wasn't Picasso, as Claude Noel used to say, but you got the 2-1 victory, and that's all that matters.
You're absolutely right. And so, again, it's funny, Ezzy, it's one of those situations where you're watching this team and you're thinking, is the message through? They got the benefit. The coach gave them a day off yesterday. So you're thinking, okay, well, that's a good sign. They were able to, get that rest. They had the skate this morning, but you knew that you're thinking, okay, well, let's see if how they're going to respond. Are they going to be able to start the game on time, which is exactly what we talked about this morning. And that, to me, was so key in this game. Was, again, you wanted to see that the Jets were going to win the game, obviously, because you needed them to get away from, the stink of this losing streak. But more importantly was to see how they were going to play. And Connor Hellebuck, he had to be sharp right from the outset, because Logan Stanley gave a little bit of a free pizza to start the game relatively early in the game. And that didn't help things, of course. And then they end up getting, so he looked good right from the outset. I mean, he was always
Colin White. I made a note of it here because I was trying to get my kids to go to bed while I was watching that first period. Maybe not go to bed, but at least, get in the bathtub and start getting ready for bed. Yeah, it was Colin White. I made a note, and Hellebuck made a good glove save. That was, I think, the first 3 or 4 minutes of the game, Dave. Yeah. So you're right. I mean, saves like that, though, I mean, they set the tone for the game, right? I also made a note. Mason Appleton had a big hit in the first few minutes of the game. Adam Lowry also took a hit. I forgot the name of the defenseman, number 7, a guy that I don't know really well on the Penguins.
Yeah, he hit him. You're right.
Yeah, who is it? Hold on. It's John Ludwig.
Yes.
Von Beethoven, right?
According to our friend Seth Rohrbaugh, who was on with us earlier this morning, he just came off IR. So
I don't think he has a lot of NHL games experience, but
no.
Yeah. So I mean, I liked the Lowry, Appleton, Niederreiter line. Not just the fact that Niederreiter got the goal in the first period, but I liked how Appleton was throwing his weight around. And look, you're right, Dave. Especially when you're not playing that well, you're not scoring a lot of goals. You have to score an early goal, and that's what the Jets did. And again, we'll break it down once we officially get into the Betway game recap. But I mean, Nikolaj Ehlers has his head up the whole time. And we talked about it. Who are the players that needed to step up? Scheifele, Ehlers, and Connor. And that was the Jets' best line tonight.
Well, and it's funny, right? Because, you see Ehlers reunited with Scheifele and they score that goal. I just lost Ezzy. I think he inadvertently wanted to mute himself, and somehow he ended up taking his camera off. As never remove your face. The people want to see you. But look, I mean, we needed to see something from those guys, and those were the guys who were going to get this team going. And like I said, and we'll hear from Rick Bowness. We're hoping to go to his media availability, which should get started in a few minutes. We're going to try something a little new here, folks. We're going to head it to the Mad Frost Media Center as soon as Rick Bowness steps up to the podium. Hopefully, Colby Spence has been working overtime to make this happen. So we'll see if we can hear from the head coach of the Winnipeg Jets while he's up at the podium. Still waiting. The media are filing in. Saw Weber just a few moments ago, so he should be here soon enough. We'll hear from his comments. We'll hear his comments on the game, and then, of course, we'll maybe give a reaction and then get into the Betway game recap. But those were the drivers. Those were the guys who you absolutely needed to see. Like we said, we needed to see complementary scoring. Look, Nino Niederreiter. We'll get into it, but like when you could see from his reaction how much, and Colby, speaking of Colby, captured it so perfectly because he happened to be down by the glass in that end in the first period. And you could see the relief after not scoring for 16 games on Nino Niederreiter's face, getting that goal. And it's exactly what he needed to do, right? In front of the net, causing havoc. And he gets the goal. So, I mean, that's what you needed to see. But I think the fact that this game started because Ehlers and Scheifele got it going, and on a great play by Nikolaj Ehlers, that's really what kind of got everything started and got everything rolling. So it's been a good night. And just, a little breaking news, not really breaking, but news for the folks who are in the chat. This is, of course, the Illegal Curve postgame show where we usually talk about Jets, but the Moose also winners tonight. So the Jets won, the Moose won in a second straight shootout against the Grand Rapids Griffins. Billy Haynola scored to make it a 2-2 game. Then Brad Lambert tied the game, and it was a 3-3 game, went to overtime, nothing solved, and went to a shootout. And then finally it was won. I think Christian Reichel. Okay, here's Rick Bowness. We're going to send it to him, and then we'll hear the comments from the Winnipeg Jets head coach.
Hasn't liked it starts in recent games. Obviously, the importance, and I'm sure you stressed, of coming out. Did you feel like they responded today? Yes. Sure looked like they had a lot more jump.
Yeah, it was a real good first period. I mean, we could have had a few more goals too. We didn't give up much, so that's one of the better first periods we've had in a while.
You took an interesting approach yesterday where you canceled practice, and the old school approach might say teams had a rough skate, you skate them hard. What was kind of your mindset of giving them a day off? And is the hope that they'd have that extra energy and they would respond in kind?
Yeah, that. And again, I know we had lost 5 in a row, but it's not like we were playing terrible because we weren't. We weren't scoring goals. It's simple as that. And so, yeah, there's games, there's rough patches through it. That's going to happen. But we weren't playing nearly as bad as what the record was telling us. We weren't giving up much. We just weren't scoring goals. We weren't creating enough. We get in it, and we had skated Sunday, Monday, practice, played Tuesday, practice Wednesday, practice Thursday, or played Thursday. We put them on the ice yesterday. We're going in tonight. That's 7 straight days on the ice. And I just wanted to make sure, they were playing in Minnesota last night. We just wanted to make sure we had good legs tonight.
I guess then, from your perspective, did you feel like you maybe got away from that then in the second, or was that more about maybe Pittsburgh kind of starting to push?
No, that was us. No. The only thing I'll tell you about the second period is that it was very frustrating, and we'll leave it at that.
Without leading you too far down the road, did you feel like maybe the penalties also killed some of the momentum there? No?
No. I think there was a lot of, we were a little self-inflicted out there, but no.
I really got to follow that up. I mean, I guess would it be a matter of making too many hope plays or too many just, hey, I think I can get away with this sort of plays?
Just frustrating period. But give the players full credit. They rebounded in the third period. We played really well in the first. We played really well in the third. We played well enough to win that game, and that's all that matters. Did we get away from our game in the second period? Obviously, we did. So.
I want to ask you about a couple of guys who just played recently for the first time. I mean, Sean Monahan seems like every forecheck he's knocking a puck down. What have you seen from him? How's he fitting? Where's he at?
Like he's exactly what we had hoped for. He's delivering the goods. I mean, he's very reliable. He's very smart. He's got a good he knows how to manage the game on the ice. Good hockey IQ. Like he's been excellent for us. He really has.
When you say he knows how to manage the game, is that why he kind of became, I think he was between Mesnikov and Iafallo there for
At the end there, yeah. He's a smart player, and he's very reliable defensively, so he's going to be, going to use them. You get a 2-1 lead, and they're coming, and just, you get they're all reliable players, right? So that was a good line for us.
And then Logan Stanley, his second game back after a long break. How is he at in terms of?
Logan's been good. Considering what we've done to him and only playing him is the number of games we've played, Logan has done very well. We're very happy with what he's done.
What do you think of the way your team defended in front of the blue paint today, Rick?
The first and third, pretty good. The second, not so good. And when they're getting whacks at it, that's not our team. That's not how we play.
What would it mean for Nino to be rewarded and also kind of to go to his office and get to the blue paint
listen,
for his goal?
If you look at the game in Philly, that line had 4 or 5 great chances to score. It just wasn't going in. We met with them this morning and just keep doing what you're doing. You're going to get some breaks. It's going to go in. Oh, okay. Everything all right at home? Everything good? Do you need to answer that? Oh, you're good. Okay. That line they've been very good. And you saw them tonight. We needed to get that third period off on the right foot, and they did it. They got out, they got the puck deep, and they got the forecheck going. So they did their job, and it's nice to see them finally get rewarded for a goal.
And what stood out about the Scheifele line tonight?
Oh, they were flying. Again, look at the chance. We were walking in all alone, breakaways, 2-on-1s right off the bat. So the wind's got to help us, and eventually those pucks will start going in for us.
Just one on Rasmus Kupari. He took the warm-up. Was there a question mark about a forward, or was that just for an extra?
No, that was a question mark on a forward. Don't ask.
I wasn't going to. Hey, guys. Thanks.
There he goes, head coach. Hey, it worked. It took us to game 50 of the Jets regular season, but it worked. We got Coach live.
Thanks to Coach Colby.
No, Colby, that's a huge thing by Colby. We appreciate that. Folks don't have to go anywhere else now. The one-stop shop is Illegal Curve post-game show where you can watch Coach Rick Bowness live and then listen to us give our thoughts. So thank you, Colby, for doing that. Game 50, it worked.
Who had their phone on there, Dave? That was pretty funny. I'm not sure who left their phone on.
Colby said it was the sound person who may have left his radio on. So good job by Colby, and we appreciate that. That was huge for us, and we appreciate that's just adding some more benefit to this channel and this post-game show. So hopefully folks like that, and we'll try and bring that to you, obviously, for every home game, not necessarily the away games. But
so, Dave, I think that Coach Bones didn't really like the second period. I was getting that from Bowness. I don't think he really liked that second period. He mentioned that several times, but I mean, obviously you could see that there was the sigh of relief from Bones, and I'm sure, the boys in the dressing room are pretty fired up because, like we talked about on this morning show, when you lose one, you don't like it, but when you've lost 5, you want to get back in that win column and start feeling good, right? So it's a good Saturday night in Jets land, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it is. And look, you're right, Ezzy, and that's the overarching theme. And that's the one I would take away from that too, is that was definitely not a great second period. The Penguins, you expected them to push back a little bit. And clearly the penalties, right? I mean, the penalties I thought they were a little one-sided because there were a couple of instances where, Mason Appleton gets clipped, and he actually sets up Nino Niederreiter for a pretty good chance in the second. No penalty called. Mark Scheifele, there was a trip where I think they just thought that the skates connected. It'd be great if you could ask the referees about that, but you don't get a chance, so there's no opportunity to find out what they were thinking. But the insult to injury is that right after Appleton gets clipped, Logan Stanley gets called for his second penalty of the game. And the penalties are, Rick Bowness talked about it, right? Not today, but previously, just the idea that it takes everybody out of the rhythm. So that's a problem for the Jets. And that's something they're going to have to work on because they're one of the teams that were least penalized in the NHL. And now they're taking a few more penalties. And it's the time of the year where you don't want to be doing that. Let's get into the Betway game recap brought to you by our friends at Betway.
the Betway Game Recap.
Betway. Brought to you, or the Betway Game Recap, brought to you, no surprise, by our friends at Betway. Make sure you bet responsibly each and every time. And Drew's the betting man, so he would have given you the odds for tomorrow, the Super Bowl. I know the Jets are off tomorrow, the Moose will be traveling, or they're off. I can't remember. So it's a full focus day for folks in
What color
Manitoba.
lipstick is Taylor Swift going to be wearing, Dave? Red?
Black from Tokyo. I mean, maybe she'll be wearing black. I'm not sure. But that's a good point, the prop bets will be available.
Go Niners.
Exactly. Well, that's
Sorry,
right.
Huss.
Yeah, you went for the Niners anyways. But before we even get started on the game recap, as one of the things that I realized going into this game was Kyle Connor was playing his 500th NHL game. And it seems like just yesterday that we were in Florida. That was the 2015 draft, correct? That was Sunrise, Florida. Just you and I went for that one. And it seems like it was just yesterday where he was getting drafted. That was, I would argue, that was probably the best draft the Jets have ever had in their history, because every single guy they drafted was, for the most part, was a good player, made it to the NHL. But not every player, but a lot of the guys there. I think 5 of the 7, or 8. But yeah, it's just amazing to me that Kyle Connor's already played 500 games.
I agree.
At 240.
That one snuck up on us, Dave, right?
Yeah.
Like when you think about 500, we were talking to Seth Rohrabaugh, who covers the Penguins on this morning show, about Marc-Andre Fleury, who obviously doesn't play for the Penguins anymore. He plays for the Wild, but everybody's going to remember him for his cups with Pittsburgh. And 1,000 games is like a throwback for goalies now. Like there aren't that many goalies that, I mean, Connor Hellebuck will be one of them. He's going to have a chance for sure at 1,000. But yeah, like 500 games for Kyle Connor, like he's still a young man. Like when you think about it, right? So I'm with you. Like that was 9 years ago or 8.5 years ago that we were in Florida for that draft. And I agree, like Connor and Roslovic. And I mean, we all know Boston had 3 opportunities to take Kyle Connor, and we know who they went with. At least Jake DeBrusk turned out pretty well, right? So yeah, I mean, good on him. And, I think Connor clearly was better tonight. I mean, I think, by the way, Gabe Vilardi was better tonight. And we'll get into the Scheifele goal here, but I mean, that line, I mean, you got to stick with, what's working. And we know that when Ehlers is on that top line, it's better. I mean, just the advanced stats, the expected goals are better when Nick Ehlers is playing with Mark Scheifele, whether it's Gabe Vilardi or Kyle Connor on that line. I mean, Dave, I think that's something we're going to be talking about, these last 32 games going into the playoffs. Like, who's a better fit on that top line? I mean, there's a lot of hockey to be played, right? Like, yes, we're past the midway point of the season, but I think the way Ehlers has played, he deserves to be on that line. And he led all players in this game with 6 shots on net. Like, Ehlers was fantastic out there using his speed. And yeah, was there, some hiccups for the Jets in the second period? Yes. As you mentioned, Pittsburgh pushed back, but, Ehlers was fantastic tonight. And obviously, this goal here, if you want to get into it, like, he creates the turnover, right? Like, Jake Gensel's trying to get the puck back to Ryan Graves. And that's the thing. Everybody's going to remember the nice pass over to Scheifele, the one-timer that beats Tristan Jarry. But that behind the back, the way he picks off the pass from Gensel to Ryan Graves, Dave, I mean, that was just impressive. And, he was just flawless on his zone entries tonight. Wasn't that effective on the power play, but who cares? The Jets only had the 1 power play. But yeah, Ehlers to me was I would even say he was by far the Jets' best forward tonight.
Well, you know what? And it's interesting because the game started, as if you recall, with a 3-on-1 for the Jets where they didn't do anything with it. Mark Scheifele, Josh Morrissey jumped in. I think it was Nikolaj Ehlers as well. And you thought, okay, well, the glass half full part of you says, well, the Jets created a 3-on-1 opportunity early in the game, but then they didn't do anything with it. And that's not a great sign. They somehow got a shot because Morrissey kind of, tipped it into Jarry's pads. And I was actually listening to one of the Pens writers was over our talking with us prior to the puck drop. And he was talking about how Jarry really gets up for these types of games. When Jarry has a chance to face a Connor Hellebuck, that animates him, that amps him up. And he gets, and you can see it, right? He's played very well against the Jets. And so you knew he was going to be a difference maker in the game. And I thought he was very good again for Pittsburgh. But, on on this play. Sorry, something's going on outside. I guess someone's making some noise outside as maybe some fireworks. Maybe some Jets fans are really excited setting off fireworks tonight. But look, you wanted to see them be able to create. And, 10 minutes into the first, there was an opportunity, right? Like Logan Stanley gives that puck up. Connor Hellebuyck had to be fantastic to make that save. Because then I was talking about it with Mike McIntyre, who I was sitting beside today. And I said, like, Mike, talk about changing the game with a Jets team that's kind of fragile. That goal goes in. If Connor Hellebuyck isn't sharp, like it changed. I mean, again, Captain Obvious here, but that changes the whole tenor of this hockey game. And instead he makes a fantastic save. So he's into the game, not that the Jets are going to want it to be that way, but he gets into the game quickly because he makes that fantastic save. So, he's dialed in, he's ready to go. And then the Jets are able to turn it around. And you're absolutely right in isolating the fact that the play starts because Nikolaj Ehlers anticipates the pass by Getzel, makes a nice, and that's like behind, no look behind his back, like manages to slap that puck down. And then to be able to transition from stationary to speed, which is again, the benefit of Scheifele's not a slow guy. Ehlers is fast. And Connor's obviously very fast. So, I mean, you've got that benefit in that they can when you have guys who have high hockey IQ, they can transition quickly. So they transition quickly. And again, we talk about it. Everybody talks about Ehlers' shot. His pass is very good. He's a very good passer. And so, especially because it's so fast, so quick, and Scheifele one times it. And again, I got to credit Colby. And if you haven't seen, go to the Illegal Curve Instagram because he captures the photos fantastically of these two Jets goals in the first period, but just a no doubter one timer. We've seen Mark Scheifele score that goal probably 100 times in his career.
Yeah. And the first, around the 3 or 4 minute mark, remember there was, I forget if it was a 2-on-1 or a 3-on-1 when Scheifele had the puck and he was thinking pass. And I think the play was disrupted and the Jets didn't even get a shot on that. But like I was mentioning before, Ehlers, you could see with his head up, he was thinking pass the whole time over to Scheifele, right? And puts it right on his stick. And I agree with you. We've kind of talked about both Ehlers and Connor. Their playmaking is underrated. We tend to focus on the goals. But yeah, that was huge to get a goal, midway through the first period when the game was, fairly even. Maybe you give the Jets a little bit of an edge. I think, in the latter stages of the first period, you definitely give the Jets the edge, not just because Niederreiter gets the next goal, but they were controlling the pace of play and everything like that. But that's what you need, right? Like, we talked about it. I mean, there weren't that many goals in this game, and there weren't any, quote unquote ugly goals, unless you want to consider, Niederreiter's goal an ugly goal, but that was just a hard-working goal, right?
Yeah.
But, that's what they need. I mean, Scheifele, Ehlers, Connor, I mean, these guys have been, a little quiet offensively. Not a little bit quiet. They've been quiet offensively. And that goes back to before the All-Star break, in the couple games against the Leafs, right? So, yeah, you love to see that. It fired up the sold-out crowd tonight. And, I think, hopefully it's a sign of things to come. Because, the schedule is only going to get easier, right? Like they have the 3-day break coming up before Wednesday, but then you're going to have 3 games in 4 nights. Vancouver is going to obviously be a huge test. That could be a West Final preview, Dave. Like we don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, but this could be a throwback to like 1992-93 when the Jets were going up against Pavel Bure and Greg Adams and Kirk McLean, right? So the Jurke Lume?
Jurke Lume, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I was going to say Jurke Lume.
Yeah,
we used to call him Jurke Lume.
Keith Jurke Lume. I love it, Dave. But, so, I mean, the schedule is going to get harder. And we know the Jets have, 16 games in March. I mean, this is the playoff push here, right? Like, I mean, it's been a week since the All-Star game, right? Like it's time to turn up turn it up a notch here. And I thought that the Jets did that, especially in the first period. And yeah, there was a bit of a lag, if you will, in the second period, but obviously they, recovered in the third period, got some good scoring chances. Sean Monahan had that shorthanded breakaway. He couldn't capitalize on it, but yeah, it was, that was your key to the game, Dave, on this morning show to get the first goal. And that's what they did.
They did. And that first goal, Ezzy, you know what that first goal was? It was our Seagram shot of the game.
The Seagram shot of the game.
We thank our friends at Seagram's for their sponsorship of Illegal Curve. In fact, I had one of the NHL officials, I won't name names, come up to me in the press box. I think it was during the first intermission, and said, "Did you get that message I sent you?" I said, "No, what message?" He said, "I sent you a picture of a case of Fireball when he was down in the U.S. He
Right
found
on.
some fire." And he's like, "You guys are always talking about Fireball." And that made me look at this. And I said, "Well, goes to show you that the advertising is working. If people remember that we're talking about that." So
Delicious cinnamon whiskey.
yeah, exactly. So we thank our friends at Fireball at Seagram's for their sponsorship here of the Illegal Curve post-game show. And that was our shot of the game because it was a fantastic shot. Mark Scheifele's 15th goal of the season, assist to Nikolaj Ehlers, his 20th of the season, Ezzy. And so the Jets get up to the 1-0 lead. And then just over 5 minutes later, Nino Niederreiter, if a guy needed a goal, it was number 62 for the Winnipeg Jets. And look, it was a bit of a chaotic play. The Pens had a chance to get it out. Logan Stanley gets the puck over to Nate Schmidt, who just doesn't look and blasts it on net. And lo and behold, what happens when you have someone standing in front of the goaltender? Well, it creates a little chaos. And Nino Niederreiter, that's exactly what I think it was you, Ezzy, who said it this morning, getting his big body in front of the net, taking away the eyes of Jari. And exactly what, in this instance, he actually doesn't take away the eyes because the puck goes off the backboard and right to him. But the point is that he's in the right place. He's able to be where he needs to be able to tap that puck home. And the Jets have a 2-0 lead and the building is amped.
Yeah. And look, yeah, you just, mentioned, I mean, what you can't ignore on this goal, it's a fortuitous bounce, right? Like sometimes you get those, sometimes the goaltender gets the bounce, sometimes the shooter gets the bounce here. And Nino Niederreiter is in the perfect spot. And, he makes no mistake about it. I also like the fact that, I thought Mason Appleton was doing a good job in the offensive zone, recovering the puck. He gets it back to Logan Stanley, who fires it over to Nate Schmidt, who's the one that puts the shot on net. And, like for an unheralded third pair, like we've talked about all year, how good Sandberg and Schmidt have been on the third pair. I thought Sandberg was excellent, by the way, on the second pair with Pionk. And why would you expect anything less? Like, I almost feel like, Dave, we should have a 1-hour Dylan Sandberg appreciation show. Like, I just feel like he doesn't get enough love for how good of a defenseman he is. Maybe that's because he doesn't put up good offensive numbers, like big offensive numbers, I should say, but he's a good defenseman, and that's what he's paid to be. It's to be a good defenseman, right? So, yeah, I mean, nice to see, because it had been, 15 or 16 games, I believe, since Nino had scored a goal. 16 games. So you always like to see that, right? Yeah. We saw, who was it? Cam Atkinson, who got the monkey off his back 3 weeks ago for Philadelphia. He scored 2 goals against the Jets in that 2-0 shutout victory, right?
Oh, but, right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's but, that's what you like to see. It wasn't quite a Dennis Bayak bang, because there were, 5 or so minutes between goals. But, for all intents and purposes, Dave, will say the Jets went bang in the first period. And look, it's hard for a team like the Penguins, who lost last night in St. Paul.
Yep.
And they're down 2-0. They started to, you definitely saw it, I thought, in the third period. The Penguins started to tire out. Mm-hmm. And, they just, Hellebuck shut the door, right? Like Jansen Harkins had that breakaway. Hellebuck made the stop. I mean, he wasn't going to be denied tonight. Hellebuck was excellent. You wouldn't say that, he stole the game or anything like that, but he made the saves when he needed to, right, Dave?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I like that goal. It wasn't a pretty one, but again, it's because of when it happened. It gave the Jets a comfortable 2-0 lead going into the second period. And, luckily they held on. I wouldn't say that, they necessarily, took the foot off the gas. Maybe a little bit in the second period. Yeah. But they were still generating offense, and they easily could have had a few more goals throughout the course of the game. So again, yeah, just a, nice kind of Johnny on the spot goal, and nice to see, break that goal scoring slump.
Well, and there are, look, you got to give the other team credit as well, right? The Penguins did make some nice plays. Jansen Harkins, who I thought actually we were thinking he was going to be leaving the game before he got his tribute video, because Adam Lowry leveled him. I don't remember exactly when it took place. I know it was in the first period, but it looked like he caught him and his shoulder was a little sore. So Harkins stayed in the game. Credit to him, because Lowry really connected with him on that body check. And then Jansen Harkins, similar to what Nikolaj Ehlers had done. Jansen Harkins, I think, anticipated a Dylan DeMello pass and turned it up and got a breakaway at the end of that first period, as that I think there was only about 20 seconds to go, and Connor Hellebuck made a fantastic save. So again, credit Connor Hellebuck, because I thought he was excellent in tonight's game. But like I said, a nice play. Jansen Harkins is amped up to play against the Jets. You know that he's ready. He's played.
He's still looking for his first goal of the year, is he not?
He is. He's got 4 assists in his game, but he played, I think, 154 games in a Jets uniform. He played 200 exactly, actually, with the Moose. He was drafted. Speaking of that 2015 draft class, he was
second
in that second round. So, I mean, that he has
he's playing in the NHL, Dave, right? Like, at the end of the day, that's what he wants to be doing.
Yep.
He wants to be playing NHL games. He wasn't getting that opportunity here in Winnipeg.
Yep.
Because the Jets have better depth, right? You've got guys like, Morgan Barron, Nemesnikov, Iafallo on the fourth line. And so he's playing on a weaker Penguins team. Let's be honest here. The Jets
absolutely
are a more talented team than the Penguins, and he's getting an opportunity to play. So you like to see that. I mean, I think most Jets fans are happy that Harkins is getting an opportunity that he wasn't getting here.
Absolutely. I don't think anybody was sitting there going, upset about it or disappointed that he was getting that sort of opportunity. I mean, I think people were upset that he was no longer part of the organization, but an excellent AHL player, still trying to get it together and, be an everyday contributing NHL player. But according to Seth Rohrabaugh, nothing really significant happens, nothing negative, nothing positive. He's kind of like an even Steven, but in that instance, he, you could see that there was an little extra jump in his step to play against his old team and his old organization in the city. Like I said, that he spent so many years developing. So he created that nice chance. Period 1 ends 2-0. And the building's excited. There's a buzz. There's a murmur. The 50-50 is like 150K. It's probably ended around 300. It was about 2 something.
Who won it?
Good question.
Let's
Hopefully
get them on the postgame show, Dave.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of people on the postgame show, I posted this picture, but someone was there from Savannah, Georgia, came for the first time. And then the one thing about social media that I love, we always talk about the negative things that social media bring, but one of the things I love about social media is so I tweeted that picture, posted it on our Instagram, and it's funny because amazing how many people are connected. So people see that and they're like, oh, that's my sister, or someone's like, that's my friend. I told them to come at this point. So it's amazing that all these people get connected. Look, we almost had the guy who I was seeing was Adrian Pimento from turned out to be,
that was hilarious.
Scott Duarte, I think is his name. He's a producer at Global. But he was in Pennsylvania.
That's
me. Yeah, exactly. He goes, hey, that's me. But we almost had him on the show. Had the Jets won, we probably would have had him on the show. And of course, who could forget? Was it last year, Ezzy, when we had, was it the Red Wings game where that guy, remember he went like this to his neck?
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, let's get him on the post.
What was that guy's name? I forget. Yeah.
He was
one of his friends messaged us because he was a regular IC viewer. Yeah, exactly. That guy was tanked. Remember they were at Bar Italia?
Oh yeah, he was.
Shout out to Bar Italia.
Yeah, he was definitely he was in the bag a little bit there. But anywho, the point is that sometimes we have a little fun here. But hey, I was very excited. Rick Bowness, that was exciting. Hopefully will be a regular feature here on the post game show, which is why as soon as that final buzzer ends, the place to be is with Ezzy, with me, and with Drew on the Illegal Curve post game show. 2-0 for the Jets after one period of play, and the second period is a period Rick Bowness, as we just heard, wasn't too pleased with, and probably because of the penalties. Now, the one thing I will say that the bench boss of Winnipeg could probably be a little upset with was the fact that they didn't get any power plays. Because like I said, there's a instance where I think it would have been a 2-on-1 or 3-on-1 for the Jets. Scheifele's skates get clipped or he gets tripped. No call. You're like, okay, they're just letting stuff go. Logan Stanley, he gets, actually, to be honest with you, I thought they were actually going to call 2 penalties on Stanley on that play. Luckily for him, it's only the one. So the Jets, PK goes to work. Luckily for the Jets, as we talked about as he was Seth on the morning show, when I don't remember who, I think it was Drew opened opened our interview with him, and he started talking about the lackluster Penguins power play. If he didn't say the word Penguins, what's wrong?
I thought the Jets power play was struggling.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh,
but I'm just saying that
was tough to watch tonight. It really was. Philadelphia's power play is nothing to write home about either.
Yeah.
The Flyers power play stinks as well, but you think Crosby, Malkin, Carlson, Gensel, Rust, Riley Smith, I don't know what it is. I don't know. I think there's something to be said, Dave, for confidence. I really do think
for sure.
like some of these teams, it seems like they go out there and it's a momentum killer, which is so weird because for so many teams, they thrive on the power play. You think about, the Edmonton Oilers or the Tampa Bay Lightning or some of these teams, right? But that Penguins power play, like it just looked just anemic. That's the best word I could use to describe the Pens power play.
Well, again, and like I said, it was funny because when Seth was on and we're like, Seth, we didn't know you were talking about the Penguins. We think you're talking about the Jets. And we saw that. And it's similar because they have tremendous weapons and yet they're not having success, which again leads you to believe that it's the coaching, right? Because these guys all can put the puck in the net. So there's no reason for them, this inability, this, again, the fact that they're the 31st ranked power play unit. I think the Jets are 25th now. But power play unit. So it was the Jets are in in the box, and that throws off the rhythm. So I would imagine Rick Bowness wasn't particularly pleased about it. But again, then the Appleton penalty doesn't get called as he gets clipped heading into the zone. Like I said in the preamble, set up Nino Niederreiter for a nice chance, and then Logan Stanley takes the second penalty of the game. That one was another. I don't think that one was questionable, but he gets the, what was that? That was for roughing against Evgeny Malkin. And so he sits in the box, but it's two penalties within 5 minutes of each other. So, as that the coach isn't particularly pleased with that sort of, composition of a period. And the Penguins really did build a lot of momentum. They outshot the Jets 16-7. And the most important thing was the goal by Rust with, I think it was about 6 minutes to go in that middle frame, and look, it's just a nice cycle by the Jets. The Jets by the Penguins, sorry. They had a chance to get the puck out. They don't. Penguins keep it in a couple of times. And then eventually Rust is crossing the ice and he has a stick on the ice, and it's a set play. And these guys have all played so much together, and Connor Hellebuck makes an effort, but it's just a beautiful goal, right top corner, and he has no chance on it. And that really kind of, the momentum was already in Pittsburgh's favor, but you could just kind of feel them taking back a lot of energy with that goal.
Yeah. And I mean, like you mentioned, Dave, the Penguins had all of the momentum at that point.
Yeah.
And if you remember, it was Jake Gensel who had a really good scoring chance a few shifts before then. Hellebuck, I'm not sure if he made two saves. You might know better than I would because you were there, right? Where Gensel, and then there was a rebound, and I wasn't sure if Gensel had a shot on the rebound. But it was a good flurry there where Hellebuck made some good saves. And I mean, the Penguins then had, were rolling the lines, kind of, what the Jets like to do to two teams, where they like to roll a line and have their waves of pressure. And, Rust, I mean, look, this guy's won Stanley Cups with the Penguins. And yeah, it's Ryan Graves over to Erik Karlsson on the point. And was it Mason Appleton who was covering Rust? I thought it was Appleton on Rust. It might have been a different player, but it could have been Morgan Barron actually. But whoever the Jets forward was, Dave, maybe I'll check out the replay here. Whoever had Brian Rust in front of the net, because Rust was coming.
I was trying to help you out, Ezzy, but I was also trying to tweet at the exact same time. So I was trying.
Yeah. So hold on, I've got the replay here, Dave. It was Brian Rust is coming through the middle of the ice, and it is. Hold on.
Here it is.
I thought it was Morgan Barron. He had good coverage on Rust, but Rust, like sometimes you have to just say, it's not like anything any Jets player was doing wrong on this particular play.
Right.
Rust has been doing this. Like Rust is, how old is he? 30 years old, 31 years old. He's got a lot of games of NHL experience, and he scored a lot of goals, right?
Yeah.
So it was just a nice deflection. And the Penguins, that was a hardworking goal. The Penguins deserved to be within a goal at that point in the game. They had all the pressure. And luckily, the Jets kind of escaped out of that middle frame, and they still had the 2-1 lead. But yeah, I mean, that was a nice goal. But you definitely got the feeling at that point in the game that, okay, the Pens are coming with waves of offense. They're probably going to get one here. I mean, at that point, Hellebuck had, 20 saves or whatever he had. Yeah. And obviously that one wasn't his fault. Just a nice deflection by Rust. But again, what you have to like is, for all intents and purposes, the Jets, shut the door in the third period. Sure, the Pens had a few decent scoring chances. How many high danger chances did they have in that third period? They only had 3 high danger chances for in that third period at even strength. So I mean, I think you'll take that. I mean, it's not like the Pens, got a lot. I think that those high danger chances might have been a little bit generous, Dave. But yeah, nice goal by Russ. But for the Jets, it's lucky that was their only goal they scored.
Yeah, no, and you're absolutely right. And it was funny because just before they scored that goal, you'll recall, as Sidney Crosby and Adam Lowry, the two captains, punching it out in front of, I think it was in front of Connor Hellebuck after the Pens had a chance. But you're right, like you could just sense it. And Lowry's trying to get his team back into it, and he's trying. I mean, although it was funny because originally you're like, who threw the first shot? And it actually was Sidney Crosby who threw the first shot on Adam Lowry before 17 returned the favor. But you could just sense it. Look, the Jets didn't need to win this game. Like they did because the fan base needed a break from losing. Like the fan base needed.
But I know what you're saying. They're 11 points up on the St. Louis Blues.
That's right.
Who have third place in the Central. So the Jets are going to finish first, second, or third in the Central.
That's right.
Nobody's catching the Jets for third.
No. Well, is that a Ginsburg guarantee? Hold on, Ezzy, but be careful there. But the point is that the fan base just needed a break from the losing, and obviously so did the players. But if the Jets lose that game, it's not great, of course, because again the questions continue. But the Penguins are absolutely desperate, which is the reason why you saw them play that second period the way they did, because they lost last night in regulation to the Minnesota Wild, and they can't afford. Detroit won this afternoon. Actually, very unusual. I don't know if you saw, Ezzy. Detroit won on a penalty shot in OT. When Lucas Raymond was cross-checked from behind by Quinn Hughes, and then he got a chance to take a penalty shot. But it was weird because literally he's on the breakaway. He gets cross-checked from behind, and they called a penalty shot. So
I'm surprised, Luke. I didn't see that. I'm going to go have to check out the replay, but I'm surprised. Wasn't Lucas Raymond the one who was hit by Zadorov?
I believe so, which was a 2-game suspension.
Was it a match penalty though?
I don't recall. I mean, I wasn't watching the game.
Again, Department of Player Safety is the most unpredictable because they're so inconsistent. But I've only watched it a few times, Dave, but I would probably say that hit should have been at least 3 games. If Brendan Dillon got 3 games for what he did on Noel Acciari. But again, I mean, we're trying to get in the head of George Peros and the NHL Department of Player Safety, and they're just so inconsistent. So sadly, I'm not that surprised that he only got 2 games, but nice to see that Lucas Raymond, didn't, get a concussion or he wasn't injured because he's a great young player for the Red Wings. So, the Red Wings have been a great surprise. I mean, honestly, I know there's a lot of hockey to be played. I don't think the Pens are going to be, catching them based on what I've seen from the Penguins. Yes, they beat the Jets on Tuesday night, but I just think, what are they, 7 points back now?
Yeah.
Of a wild card spot. I just think they're going to run out of time.
Yeah, no, I think you're probably right, Ez. And look, it's speaking of time, the second period ends. The Penguins are pushing. It's 2-1 though. Connor Hellebuck, I should say, made a really nice save. I don't remember who against Ezzy. I think I had it written down. The one thing I want to mention before we get into the third period analysis, and there's not too much because there weren't any goals. But Cole Perfetti had a perfect shot in the slot, except he didn't have a perfect shot because he didn't take the shot. He passed it off. And that's one of those things that he's got to, I know that I said, and I'll get your thoughts on the Monahan, Perfetti, and Velarde line, although it was changed a little bit while they were protecting that 2-1 lead in the third. But so what were your overall thoughts? But to me, Perfetti's got to stop giving up. I understand that he sometimes tends to default to his line mates, but he's got a good shot and he's got to use it a little bit more. Yeah,
he's got to get greedy. He's got to get selfish. I thought that line was okay, but I mean, I didn't think they were great. I didn't think they were fantastic.
Yeah.
They had some scoring chances. I mean, we talked about, I mean, obviously, this wasn't the line because it was shorthanded. Monahan had the breakaway.
Yeah.
And Tristan Jarry made the good save, right? But, I have to see more from this line, Dave. Like we talked about it. I mean, when you have Connor and Ehlers on the same line, you're obviously going to lose speed on that second line. All due respect, Sean Monahan's not the fastest player, right? Cole Perfetti's not the fastest player. That was the knock on him back in 2020 when he was drafted, was his skating, which it looks okay to me. I mean, Perfetti's having a pretty good second year in the NHL. I still wonder if, the wrist injury, how much that's affecting, his ability to shoot, right?
Yeah.
I just don't know, right? Like, I'm not going to guess. I'm a Jets outsider. I'm not a Jets insider. So I have absolutely no idea, but this is just what Rick Bowness told us. What was that, 3 weeks ago, Dave? Something like
Yep.
that.
Yeah.
That he was dealing with a wrist injury. I don't think anyone even asked him about. It was Bones that mentioned it in his presser, right? So that's the only reason we know that. Usually we wouldn't know that. I mean, there was a lot of speculation last year, if you guys remember, about Neil Pionk dealing with an injury, but we didn't really. It was never confirmed. But you wonder if is the wrist injury, is that maybe why Perfetti's shooting less? Again, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. But it's something to think about, right? Maybe that's why he's deferring to his teammates. But I want to see more out of Monahan, Perfetti, Vilardi, Dave, because it's only been one game.
Yeah, of course.
And I imagine Rick Bowness is going to keep Scheifele, Connor, Ehlers together. In the short term, like Wednesday against San Jose, Saturday against Vancouver, and so on. But I thought they were good tonight. I mean, I look. That's a line that can create offense, but they're also very responsible defensively. So yes, is it? I mean, if you're going to compare, the Scheifele line versus the Monahan line in terms of speed, I mean, the Scheifele line is going to win that. It's like apples and oranges, right? I still want to see more before I make any judgments, but I prefer Scheifele, Ehlers, and Vilardi. That, and the stats back it up. I mean, that line was one of the best lines in hockey when they were playing together.
Yeah, there's no question about that. And Rick Bowness said that in his media availability this morning, as he talking about understanding the analytics and saying how they know Vilardi, Scheifele, and Connor are Vilardi, Scheifele, and Ehlers, their analytics are very good together. So again, he said, we're not afraid to go back to that, but we want to see what this looks like. And that's fine. And that's what you want. And Joe from Winnipeg's making a good point. You want to see some more from the fourth line, the second line, 100%. Those guys need more games. Look, we're not going to make any judgments based on one game. We just wanted to see what it would look like. And look, there were some opportunities, right? Sean Monahan, you can see, again, as he's right, he's not fast, but he's cerebral. And really made a nice play along the wall on the PK, sets up the shorthanded chance, almost went for the breakaway slapper and does the fake and then rings it off the post. So a nice little opportunity. And shortly thereafter, the Jets get a power play. But again, whether it was the Penguins power play or the Jets power play, nothing really to write home about.
Powerless play. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. I still think at a certain point, it might be, maybe it's Wednesday night against San Jose. Maybe that's what the Jets need on Valentine's Day, Dave. Yeah. They need to go up against the Sharks and pop in, 2 or 3 power play goals, and that'll spark a power play resurgence. It's going to come. I mean, it has to. It just, there's too much talent on this team to go. What are they at? 1 for 32 at this point?
31. 1 for 31.
1 for 31, right? So it's going to come. Power play goals are going to come. I mean, at the end of the day, it's more important how you play at 5-on-5, but you just don't want your special teams to cost you games. The PK came through for the Jets when Logan Stanley took those 2 those 2 penalties in the second period. But I just think, especially Dave, with the addition of Monahan, whether he plays in the bumper spot or not, I think Monahan's going to make either your first power play unit or your second power play unit better. So it's going to come. I mean, it didn't come tonight, but also the Jets only got 1 power play opportunity. So, I mean, what are we doing here?
What are we? I'll tell you what we're doing here. We're doing the Illegal Curve post-game show. We do this after every single Jets game, home or away. You can always count on us. We'll always be here for you, including on Valentine's Day. Spend your Valentine's Day with.
I agree, Stacey. The power play is very frustrating. The fact is, I mean, Dave and I always joke, okay? Because, as most people know watching, we just celebrated 15 years of this show. And Dave Minuk has done every single minute of those 15 years. Richard Pollock was never part of this show. Obviously, I'm joking. But we've been talking about the Jets struggling power play for, 4 straight years now? I mean, it's been since 2018, when the Jets had Buff and Laine and Jacob Trouba and all those guys. I mean, it's been half a decade since the Jets have had a good power play. So yes, it is very frustrating.
And as Joe from Winnipeg is giving JP VJ, who is on our show this morning, right to start. If you didn't get a chance to listen, of course, you can download that. That show is the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. We come at you every Saturday at 9 a.m. to roughly around 11 a.m. make sure you're subscribing. Make sure your notifications are turned on. And also, please, make sure you smash that like button because that helps the algorithm. And Ezzy and I don't know what an algorithm is. His dad does, though, because he's a retired math professor.
We're trying to figure it out. I mean, we've been doing a lot of research, spending a lot of time in the library. We still have absolutely no clue what an algorithm is, but we like to say it, right? It's a nice.
We do like to say it.
Fun sounding word.
We also like to say, I can't even really say happy early birthday, but I will because she's Bailey, the official intern of our show and Winnipeg Sports Talk. And I don't know if she's the official intern of Kenny and Rennie. She might not be able to stay up that late, but 15 days until Bailey is turning 15. So happy early birthday to Bailey, the official intern of this program. Unofficial, official, either one. But thank you, Bailey, and thank you for joining us on Saturday. We've got plenty more show to come, but this has been the Betway Game Recap, which is brought to you by Betway, one of the most trusted voices in sports, betting both in Canada and all around the world. Betway is a sports betting app that puts you, Ezzy, the customer, at the forefront with a large selection of betting options and sports, as well as strong promotions and fair odds. What are you waiting for? Head on over to Betway and bet your way. Must be 19 years older to play, 19 years or older to play, Ezzy. Please play responsibly.
The Gatorade will be orange tomorrow.
Wow, there you go. That's a bold prediction from Mr.
It'll be
Ginsberg.
the color of my shirt.
All right. Well, we'll on that note, we are going to head to commercial break as soon as I can find the post-game show commercials. We got so many videos in here, Ezzy. I don't even know what's what, but we're going to head to commercial break to thank our sponsors. And when we come back, well, we'll talk about the Moose. We'll talk about the Jets. We'll talk about whatever Ezzy and I want because these are we're into overtime. This is escapades time. So stick around. We'll be back right after these words from our sponsors.
This Valentine's Day, heart-shaped pizzas are back at Boston Pizza. On February 14th, share your favorite delicious Boston pizza with the ones you love. Your locally owned Boston Pizza will donate $1 from every heart-shaped pizza sold to the Travis Price Children's Heart Center and the Children's Hospital Foundation of Manitoba. To order, call 925-4111. This Valentine's, share the love with a heart-shaped pizza from Boston Pizza.
You guys ever wish for a game changer in life?
Like finding out your favorite snack has 0 calories?
Or discovering the mute button on Ezzy?
Picture this, a secret weapon for parking, where you can book a spot a whole month in advance.
Tell me more, Drew.
Pre-book your parking at really low rates, or maybe even for free if you use the code Illegal Curve.
Free? What is this, sorcery?
The Grid Park app. It's a real secret weapon that has affordable game day parking, and to sweeten the deal even more,
I love sweets.
our listeners can use the code Illegal Curve to park for free.
Holy Zamboni.
Tell me about it. Just download Grid Park, GRYD Park, and use the code Illegal Curve, all one word, to park for free.
The game can change just like that. Accidents happen when you aren't protected. So now what? Getting to your injury quickly can make all the difference. Help prevent them from being game changers with Linden Market Dental Center. Bonding, crowns, bridges, and dental implants. State-of-the-art treatments are available to help you get back in the game. To learn more, visit LindenMarketDentalCenter.com. Creating smiles for life.
Your coworkers love you because you always make them laugh. You're the life of the party with stories that have them rolling on the floor. Or maybe you're just the quiet one in the corner with the one-liners that just slay. Do you have what it takes to become Winnipeg's funniest person with a day job? Try your luck. Hit the stage at Rumors Comedy Club, and you could be walking away with $1,000 cash. Winnipeg's funniest person with a day job, presented by Rumors. For all the details, head to rumorscomedyclub.com.
Whoa, Ezzy, everything okay? You look stressed.
Of course I'm stressed. We're moving, the house is upside down, the kids failed miserably at packing the fine china, and my life is in chaos. Chaos!
Yes, that does sound like a problem.
What am I going to do?
Ezzy, relax. Rolly's Transfer Moving and Storage is the answer. With 60 years of experience in moving Manitobans and a track record of exemplary customer service, one call to Rolly's and your stress is gone. No job is too big or too small. Just visit Rollies.com and they will take it from there.
Thanks, Dave, and thank you, Rollies Transfer Moving and Storage, online at rollies.com.
For 3 generations and over 80 years, Tough Duck has been making apparel that works and plays as hard as the people who wear it. From jackets to work boots and everything in between, Tough Duck's clothing can handle the harshest environments, even the illegal curve hockey show. Work to live, live to play. Visit toughduck.com.
Welcome back to the Illegal Curve post-game show. I am David Manouk. He is Ezra Ginsburg.
We both got a bathroom break in there. Nice, Dave.
We did. There's always a benefit to having multiple bathrooms, Ezzy. We don't have to use the same one. We can.
Well, you've got, what do you have, 7 bathrooms in this massive 7,000 square foot abode?
Hopefully not that many, but I do have a few. I obviously anticipate when you're going to be over. I want to make sure you're comfortable here at Chez Manouk.
Yeah.
So
get a mint on my pillow.
Absolutely. You're always taken care of here, Mr. Ginsburg. Okay, well, I mean, let's get into it. Do you have a Tough Duck hardest hitting comment winner picked out? If you do, give me the affirmative and I will send it to that bumper. Okay, you do have the affirmative, which means I will go to our Tough Duck hardest hitting comment bumper.
The Tough Duck hardest hitting comment.
Lots of great comments tonight, so we always appreciate that. We're going to give tonight's Tough Duck hardest hitting comment to In Bones We Trust. I like this, and obviously it's apropos that the comment touches on Bones. Winnipeg played another Bones-style 2-1 win. Mm-hmm. Almost took a goal away from the Penguins there. Ehlers was where he needs to be on the first line. It was a step in the right direction. More work to be done. What I like about this comment from In Bones We Trust is, we talked about it earlier in the post-game show, right? This wasn't a beautiful win. It wasn't flawless. The Jets turned the puck over a little bit. They gave up, the breakaway to Jansen Harkins. Mm-hmm. The Penguins were solid in the second period, but really the Jets were the better team in the first and third period. And, they got the win. And it was against a hungry Pens team that, even though they were playing in the second game of a back-to-back, I said this to you while we were watching the third period, really impressive that going into this game, the Pens were 6-0 in the second game of back-to-back. So that can't be, taken away from the Penguins, even though, it looks like at this point in the season, at least, that, they're an outside shot to make the playoffs. The Jets got it done, and, they sent the home crowd, the sellout crowd, home happy, Dave. So In Bones We Trust, send me an email, ezra@illegalcurve.com, or slide into my DMs on X @ICSEG with your mailing info. And Tough Duck will ship out a toque to you. And you're going to need it because I hate to say it, but it's going to get a little bit colder this week. I'm not a meteorologist, Dave.
Yeah.
But the mild February temps might be coming to an end. I mean, I think it's still going to be, above normal. But I don't think it's going to be +2 like it was last week.
Well, that's okay. We do live in Winnipeg, so we have to accept that it is going to be winter. I mean, the groundhogs were out. I think they predicted an early spring, so it should be good times relatively soon. You can feel it. Seeing the melting of the snow makes you feel like spring is around. The ice roads are done for the season, basically, I think, or at least the ones around here. The river thing was open for like 2 weeks, and they closed it down, the river trail. So that's unfortunate for Drew's fancy little dinners that he likes to do out on the rivers. That's not you and I.
I called it. Well, it's funny. Naomi went to raw almond, but I was calling it thaw almond because they actually had to. Thank you, Dave. Nobody else thought that was funny. You're the first person that laughed. I told that joke to like 50 people, and nobody found that funny.
Well, those are 50 people who are unfunny.
But they actually had to move it. So Naomi was telling me that they moved it to another location, but they still had to walk on ice or something. I'm like, why didn't they just take it inside? But I guess that defeats the whole purpose. But do got to give a shout out. I mean, I have been to Raw Almond once. The food is amazing. So, I mean, obviously, we'd like the weather to cooperate a little bit more. Festival de Voyageurs coming up. I'm hoping to meet up with Spency and the boys and tip back a few bevies. I'm hoping it's a little colder because, as you know, Dave, usually when Festival is going on, it's mid to late February, and it's usually pretty cold. And so, let's just say that the ice sculptors don't like, when it's +2. I think they would rather have it be like -15 or -20.
Yeah, well, that's a fair one.
Good call.
Your Spency's calling it pretentious almond. I'm not against that. I'm a little too fancy for my North End roots, so I won't be stepping foot. I step foot on the ice, but it's only for ice fishing, not for your fancy dinners.
I'd have to take out a reverse mortgage to be able to afford to go to raw almond. Like it's not cheap, but I will say that the food is excellent. From what I can remember, that was like 5 or 6 years ago now, maybe 7 years ago.
Yeah,
but the food is good. But yeah, it's not a cheap night.
There you go. Not a cheap night. Well, the night was important in Winnipeg, and we're gonna send it, Ezzy. Are you ready for this? 2 times now. Drew was annoyed, and again, like I said, I really should record, since Ezzy and I know when we're gonna send the Manuk Moose Minute bumper out. We really should be recording Drew's reaction. I think I'll do that next time. We're gonna do it unbeknownst to Drew. So.
Put on your antlers. It's time for the Manuk Moose Minute on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show.
You never know when it's going to come, Dave. You never.
That was
know.
very well played. That was very well played. I like that one. Good job, Ez. Wow. I believe that would be what Mindell would call hoisted by my own petard, which was, if you really paid attention to illegalcurve.com, no, that was Mindell column many years ago. The Moose in action in Grand Rapids, and what was notable about it? Well, Thomas Milic, the Jets prospect, and you were talking about Thomas Milic as you were given I don't think you gave a Ginsburg guarantee on Milic, but you were telling people to watch out for Thomas Milic, the 2023 fifth rounder by Winnipeg.
I just think it's incredible what he's doing at 20 years old. Like, I remember talking to you about this at the beginning of the year, Dave.
Yeah.
And we kind of agreed. We're like, maybe he gets a game or two at some point in the season, but for the most part, he's going to be playing in Norfolk. And I mean, dare I say he's the Moose #1 goalie right now?
He definitely is. I would be hard pressed to say otherwise. I mean, he's played, I believe he played 3 of the games on the preceding part prior to the AHL All-Star game, and now he's played 2. So he's played 5 of the 7 games on this road trip. Colin Delia has played 2, and Oskari Salmon has played 0. So, I mean, you can draw your own conclusion. The Moose next in action in Calgary on Tuesday. I don't know if it's a Tuesday, Wednesday, or a Tuesday, Thursday, but they'll be taking on the Wranglers. But Thomas Milic, I mean, he just keeps getting the net and he keeps winning the games. I mean, the Grand Rapids Griffins open the scoring. Jeffrey Viel, nice little tip of a Christian Reichel shot. Christian Reichel is really heating up. I think he's got a 7 or 8 game point streak, but Viel, with his 8th of the season, ties the game. The Grand Rapids Griffins took the lead 2-1 late in that first period before Ville Heinola, and that caused a little controversy. Now, the games, the Jets game and the Moose game were basically mirroring each other. So when one would start, the other, would start, and that sort of thing. So when Logan Stanley was taking his penalties in the second period, I clipped the Ville Heinola goal, and of course that got everybody bananas on Twitter because it was a beautiful goal. I mean, it was an absolute rocket of a slapper from Ville Heinola, finds the back of the net, ties the game. That was his 3rd goal of the season. Again, another assist for Christian Reichel, wins the faceoff. About 8 minutes later, the Grand Rapids Griffins took a lead on the power play. So the Moose were going to have to try and fight back in the 3rd period, and that's just what they did. Brad Lambert, he wires home his 14th goal of the season, ties fellow Jets prospect Nikita Chibrikov with 14 goals. Those two lead the club. And then overtime solved nothing. So it goes back to a shootout, another shootout. And the only person who scored in the shootout, Christian Reichel. Christian Reichel, I believe it was the 6th round. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6th round, it goes Christian Reichel. So yesterday went a 10-round shootout, today they go a 6-round shootout. And the Moose pick up a important win, 2 more points in the standings bank. They are, hold on, let me just check. Last I checked, they're still in last, but they are now 1 point back of 5th and 3 points back of a playoff. Oh, sorry, so they're 1 point back of a playoff spot, and they're 3 points back of 4th.
They needed wins and they're getting them, right? Like at this point, like you don't even look at the standings, right? Like they're still in it. That's what like if you look at the overall standings, obviously the Moose are, I think, 3rd last in the league or something now, but they're getting wins, and they needed these wins. And again, the fact that Thomas Milic played, last night in a shootout.
Yeah.
Again, yeah, you're right, Dave. Christian Reichel's heating up. He's playing really well. Brad Lambert's playing well. He's played well the whole year. But I mean, Milic has really stood out to me because as you've documented, as we've talked about, goaltending has been an issue. So good on Milic and good on the Jets' young prospects, Lambert, Chibrikov. They're stepping up and keeping the wins coming and keeping the Moose in a playoff race.
Exactly. And to confirm with Running Man's question, AJF did play. He's on the line with, who's he on the line with? I think he was on the line yesterday. He was with Daniel Torgerson. I don't know. I can't remember. I should be able to remember, but the guys and girls, there's a lot going on right now. So let me just quickly pull up my thing here. He was on a line with Danny Zhilkin and Daniel Torgerson. That was yesterday's game. And for today's game, I can't find it. So I don't think Torgerson. Oh, Bon Giovanni played, I think, today. So look, the fact is the Moose pick up a win. They're off tomorrow. They're traveling, and I think they'll be in Calgary in Tuesday. So big 2 points. But that's important. Like all these guys, all these young guys, Parker Ford, as he alluded to a bunch of the names, so I'm not going to go through them again, but they're all getting playoff experience, the chase of the playoffs, which is good because eventually if they can get into the playoffs, it'll hopefully serve them well, but it's important for this team. I think the winning is important, right? They went through an 11 game losing streak, 0-10-1. And for them to be able to put together this most recent streak, as I said, as they've picked up, I think 11 of 14 points on this trip. Yeah, 11 of 14. So they've put themselves back into a position where they can do battle with their why it was so important, Ezzy, was because the 9 games that of the 9 games they played, I think, or 11, they were all against their Central Division rivals. Now, of course, they're playing a Pacific team, but it was an important one. Well, as it's been a long day, we did the Illegal Curve Hockey Show from 9 o'clock this morning till just after 11, maybe just after 9 o'clock, as we didn't start exactly on time.
It's melatonin time, right, Dave?
Yeah, I was having a bit of a tech issue, but we got it done, and we had a great chat with JP Vijay and Seth Rorabaugh of the Pittsburgh Tribune Review. Those interviews, of course, are available on our iTunes or our Spotify or our YouTube channel if you want to watch the replay. So you can download that. Please do. Please listen to those interviews. Make sure you smash a like button if you can. Please make sure, if you can, leave a review. Let us know what you think about the show. Let us know what you liked. I mean, the thing you disliked, let's be realistic, was probably Drew. So he's not on the show, so you don't have to worry about that. And we, of course, have to give a big shout out to our sponsors. Of course, appreciate Frosty, always making sure he's got it up. I'm reading an old one from Drew, so I'm sure I'm probably going to say something like, thank somebody who's like an old sponsor, but I'll try and get it right. A big
thanks
thank you
to Fuddruckers for sponsoring the Illegal Curve Hockey Show.
Thanks to Bonanza for the all-you-can-eat buffet and ice cream bar, which was
my 10th birthday, I think, was at Fuddruckers. And
did you ever say it the other way?
No. Is there another way?
Yeah, Rudfuckers.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, Rudfuckers. My dad, my sister, and I always went to Fuddruckers. Why don't we actually read the sponsors of the show as opposed to other sponsors? But I also went to Fuddruckers. There's, I think, one in Fargo or Minneapolis like 15 years ago.
Yeah, there's still one for a while. Yeah.
But yeah, loved the cheese sauce and loved the free cookie.
There you go. Well, they're not a sponsor of ours, but we will thank those sponsors who do sponsor this show. Thank you, Ezzy. A big thank you to all the sponsors of Illegal Curve who make the post-game show, the Saturday show, and our website, illegalcurve.com. A possibility. They are, in no particular order, Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club, Grid Park. Use code illegalcurve to park for free. Linden Market Dental Center, Zappia Group Realty, Betway, Tough Duck, Boston Pizza, Seagram's, Rolly's Transfer, and of course, Farmery Beer, home of the IC Beer. Support these fine businesses because of their continued support of Illegal Curve Hockey. Well, as you
remember Merckx? We got that comment up from Stu Smith. What was Merckx?
No. Hold on. For the North Enders in the crowd, does anybody remember Mother's Pizza on Kingsbury?
Oh, yeah. I remember that. I remember going there.
Yeah.
I wasn't even in the North End. We used to drive from the South End to the North End to go there.
Yeah, that place was that, and there was an oldie but a goodie. If you ever went to Garden City Mall, Gritalia Pizza.
I don't remember that one.
That was
Naomi, because Naomi, as you know, grew up in Garden City.
Yeah.
Shout out to Naomi, who's currently sleeping and was mad at me. She's like, another post-game show? I guess I'll spend another Saturday night by myself.
Oh, Phyllis is saying that there's one on Regent. I did not know there was one on Regent. I was a North Ender. We weren't really allowed to go to the eastern part of the city. So we kept to the North End.
Just a true story here. Just, one last thing before we wrap up here.
You guys can go ahead.
Naomi and I back in 2016, because we were talking about, you know this, Dave, you've heard this before, or you remember this. Yeah. Naomi and I, when we first started dating, we were talking about restaurants that we used to go to growing up that are no longer in Winnipeg. Mm-hmm. And of course, we talked about Bonanza. That was brought up on, I'm pretty sure Bonanza is brought up like every 2 weeks in the chat, for that ice cream, that soft serve ice cream, and the salad bar. Everybody remembers the salad bar. So anyways, long story short, if I'm able to do that, it's not really in my DNA, but we drove to Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan. Great town.
Oh, I remember when you guys did this.
Great WHL town. So we went to Moose Jaw. And I don't think the Bonanza is there anymore, because this is, like I said, this is back in 2016. So this is, 8 years ago. But yeah, the Bonanza, it looked exactly the same as it did like in the 1980s.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it had the ice cream machine and the salad bar and everything like that. So yeah, just wanted to get that in there. Bonanza and Moose Jaw back in the day, man.
I remember when it took Naomi. That's when you knew it was true love, when she didn't dump him for taking her to Bonanza in Moose Jaw. Yeah, that's when you knew Naomi was a real one.
I'm a classy guy, Dave.
Yeah, you are. There's no question about that. Patrick threw it at Chiachera. That was phenomenal pizza in the Maples. There's so many good places. Bino's actually on Notre Dame. That was a good pizza place. So many good options. Anyways,
Mr. Sub. Is there any more Mr. Subs left?
I don't know. Chi-Chi's.
Madison Dell.
Yeah, we could play this game for hours. What about the Whistle Pig in Transcona?
Oh yeah, the Whistle Pig. Great hot dogs.
Not anymore.
Right? Wasn't that they were known for hot dogs, right?
Well, let's ask the folks who are from Transcona. Anyways. Okay, well, we've clearly hit the end of this show, and we thank you for joining us. It's been another broadcast here from the Illegal Curve Corp. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Dave Minuk. He's Ezzy Ginsburg. We're back on Wednesday for Jets Sharks post game. But of course, till then, tomorrow's a day off. We'll still have the morning papers available. If there's any Jets news, we will have it for you on the website tomorrow. The last game of Brendan Dillon's suspension, of course, is Wednesday. Doesn't look like the Jets are going to make a recall. But if we have anything on that, of course, we'll have all the availabilities on Monday after practice, Tuesday after practice on our YouTube channel, and of course on the website. So for Ezra Ginsburg, I'm Dave Minuk. Drew Mandel is off doing probably something she. And so we're done talking about Chi-Chi's.
Drew who?
This has been the Illegal Curve post-game show. Have a good night, and we'll talk to you guys and girls on Wednesday.
Peace.